Hey there. Tonight we're stepping into a different kind of story. Not the shining legend, but the cold, heavy truth beneath the armor. You won't find dragons here or flawless heroes. Just a life built on duty, fear, bruises, and the quiet grind of surviving in steel through battlefields, broken sleep, and the slow fade of glory. If this kind of storytelling helps you rest, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if it actually brings you peace. And let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. It's oddly comforting to know who else is drifting off to the same slow march through history. So dim the lights. Let the fire in your imagination warm the stone walls. Settle in and let's begin with the making of a knight. You are 7 years old when the path to knighthood begins. Not with a sword but with a farewell. Your parents, proud and perhaps a touch relieved, send you off to serve in the household of a noble lord. There are no goodbyes written in ink or preserved in keepsakes. Only a pat on the shoulder, a bundle of clothing, and the weight of expectation settling on your small, still-growing frame. No one asks if you are ready. In truth, readiness is irrelevant. You are a page now. The castle looms above you, stone towers stretching into a gray sky, its silhouette promising both greatness and hardship. The gate creaks open. What lies beyond is not a world of honor and glory, but one of scrubbing, serving, and surviving. Chivalry will come later, after years of fetching, carrying, and cleaning up after horses and noblemen with equally foul temperaments. Your duties are endless. From sunrise to well after dark, you run errands, sweep halls, deliver messages, and assist with meals. On especially lucky days, you're permitted to polish armor, which sounds glamorous until you realize it means scraping dried mud and horse dung from heavy iron boots. Your hands are blistered, your back aches, and the nights they barely notice you. You are not yet one of them. You are the help. But even in these early days, training begins. Wooden swords are handed out like brooms, and bruises bloom across your arms as you spar with other boys who, like you, are eager to prove something. You're taught how to fall from a horse without breaking your neck. You fall often. Some days it feels like falling is the main lesson. No one praises you for bruising well, but they do scold you for weakness. You learn quickly. Pain is to be swallowed, not displayed. Discipline is everything. Speak only when spoken to. Bow deeper to those of higher rank. Never question a command, no matter how trivial or humiliating. Your mistakes are corrected with the back of a hand or a week scrubbing chamber pots. One boy forgets to remove his cap in the presence of the lady of the house. He spends 2 days on his knees in the chapel praying for humility. No one forgets again. Mornings begin with Mass. The castle chapel is cold year-round and your breath fogs in the air as you kneel on stone floors and try not to fall asleep during the liturgy. Faith is not optional. It is as much a part of your training as sword play. Meals are brief affairs, usually consisting of bread, cheese, and meat if you're lucky. You eat quickly, knowing your next task waits. You sleep where you can, often in the servants' quarters, shoulder to shoulder with other boys, on straw pallets that smell of sweat and mildew. Right arrow. The castle is your crucible, and every hour spent within its walls forges you into something harder, leaner, more capable. Not a knight, not yet, but no longer a child. You are a creature in transition, battered, disciplined, and quietly determined. So when you lie awake at night staring at the wooden beams above your straw-filled mattress, you think not just of what you've endured, but of what lies ahead. The next phase, the next challenge, the next step on the path that will one day, if the gods, your lord, and your body all permit, make you a knight. But for now you are a page, and that is enough. ZZZ. At the age of 14, the apron strings of pagehood are ceremoniously snipped, though not with any kindness or softness. You are no longer a page, you are now a squire, and while this new title may sound like a promotion, it comes with considerably fewer sweetmeats and far more bruises. You have graduated from polishing floors to polishing armor, from fetching goblets to fetching the man who might be dying in one. Your new role is personal, intimate even. You are assigned to a knight, and you are expected to serve him as faithfully as a shadow. Where he goes, you go. If he rides into battle, you follow. The physical training increases tenfold. Riding a warhorse, for instance, is not the elegant glide you once imagined. These beasts are enormous, bred for power and war, and more temperamental than most noblemen. Mounting them is a small battle in itself. Controlling them, a constant negotiation. Your thighs ache. Your spine jars with every step. Sword training intensifies. You now wield live blades, not to kill, but sharp enough to cause concern if your opponent happens to be better rested or less distracted than you. You spar daily, your body covered in bruises that never quite fade before new ones bloom. Every session is an exercise in humility. For every swing you land, you take 3 in return. The knight you serve doesn't expect grace. He expects grit. But perhaps the most tiresome part of your duties is equipment care. Armor, you quickly learn, is not just metal. It is an ecosystem. Sweat, grime, and the occasional slug somehow make their way into the joints of plate mail. You clean it, polish it, inspect every hinge and strap. If the greaves pinch or the helmet visor sticks mid-battle, that is your fault. Weapons need sharpening daily. Lances must be tested. Shields examined for cracks. Your knight's life and your reputation depends on the absolute precision of your work. No one thanks you when everything goes right, but everyone notices when it doesn't. And then there are tournaments. They were romanticized when you were a page. Colorful affairs of trumpets and cheering maidens. Now you see the blunted swords break bones. You are the one saddling the horse, carrying the lances, wiping the blood from your knight's cheek so he can smile for the crowd. If he wins, you collect the prize money. If he loses, you collect his broken ribs and what remains of his dignity. Winter brings new challenges. You now understand that a sword is only as effective as the hand that can still feel its hilt. Your fingers crack from cold, and the metal of your knight's armor feels like ice as you buckle it on each morning. Snow turns the training yard into a mire of frozen mud. Horses slip. So do you? You do not complain. The weather, like war, does not care how you feel. You learn to carry grief without showing it. You learn to keep working even as the ground shifts beneath you. You bleed. You limp. You learn. Your story is still being written, but already it is etched into the cold iron of swords, the dust of roads, the calluses on your hands. ZZZ. You are 21 years old, or near enough. The number doesn't matter half so much as the fact that someone has finally decided you are ready. Ready to kneel, ready to swear, ready to kill and die with a little more official ceremony attached. It begins with solitude. You are given a chamber, small and cold, in which to pray, reflect, and fast through the night. There is nothing glamorous about it, just stone walls, a single candle, and a chapel blanket that is both thin and scratchy. You kneel on the floor, bones aching, stomach growling. This vigil is meant to purify the soul, to prepare you to accept the sacred duties of a knight. But mostly you spend the time wondering whether anyone would notice if you sat down for 5 blessed minutes. Come dawn, you are escorted to the main hall. Banners hang, candles flicker, and a hush falls as your name is announced. You kneel. The sword taps your shoulders left then right. The dubbing. You speak solemnly, pledging loyalty to your liege, to God, and to the ideals of chivalry. You promise to defend the weak and fight with honor, though you silently wonder how many knights still live by those words. You rise not as a boy, not as a servant, but as a knight. The weight of the title settles on your shoulders, heavy as chain mail. Knighthood, as it turns out, is not a destination but a doorway, and the world does not slow down for you to enjoy your new status. The first real lesson of knighthood is not how to fight, but how to walk, breathe, and not fall over in your own armor. You are handed 60 pounds of steel and told to get on a horse. Eventually you are sheathed in metal from crown to toe. It's less like wearing clothes and more like being folded into a walking bell. The helmet is the worst. It muffles your hearing, narrows your vision, and steams up with your own breath. In battle it protects your skull. Outside of battle, it functions mostly to give you a throbbing headache. Summer in a full suit of plate is like walking inside a forge. You sweat buckets, faint if you're not careful, and attract flies with all the grace of a walking roast. And then there is the code. Chivalry. The very word sparkled with promise like polished armor in morning light. It was meant to define what it was to be a knight: bravery, courtesy, honor. A lofty ideal written in elegant scripts. But chivalry is like a tapestry, grand at a distance but fraying up close. In the thick of battle, no one stops to recite their virtues. You swing, you survive. Protecting the weak sounds lovely in songs, but in the field, the weak are often collateral. If a convoy of commoners stands between you and the enemy's grain supply, you don't go around, you go through. You begin to understand that the code of chivalry is less a shield and more a compass. It doesn't stop you from getting lost. It just gives you something to check when the fog sets in. You carry the code not in scripture but in habit. You pick it up like your sword each morning, knowing it may slip from your grip by nightfall, but reaching for it anyway because without it you are merely a killer. ZZZ. The true test of your knighthood does not happen in the quiet halls of your lord's castle. It does not happen on the cheering tournament grounds, where the sun shines on polished shields. It happens on the miserable, soul-crushing march to war. You ride for weeks under skies that never seem to clear, a heavy canopy of gray that blocks out all hope of warmth. The rain is a freezing companion that finds every gap in your armor. Your heavy boots are permanently damp, and the thick gambeson beneath your steel plates begins to smell of wet horse, stale sweat, and decaying earth. An army on the move is not a glorious parade of heroes. It is a slow, rotting beast dragging itself across the landscape. The ancient dirt roads turn to thick mud that grips the wagon wheels and the heavy hooves of your warhorse. You march alongside thousands of other men. The unwashed bodies, the spreading sickness, the unspoken fear. It becomes a suffocating fog that you simply cannot escape. Camp life is a dreary, exhausting exercise in pure endurance. You sleep on the cold ground, wrapped in a damp blanket, listening to the harsh coughs of men who will die long before they see an enemy blade. Your daily meals are joyless. Hard bread that cracks your teeth, heavily salted meat that tastes of old wood, and murky water you boil over a smoky fire. You eat silently, staring blankly into the weak flames, shivering in the night air. And then, after weeks of this slow decay, the dreaded day finally arrives. You are woken violently in the pitch black before dawn. The morning air is freezing cold and a thick mist clings tightly to the valley. Your squire, shivering and pale-faced, helps you strap on your heavy armor piece by piece. The steel is freezing against your padded clothes. The immense weight settles onto your shoulders, deeply familiar but suffocating. You mount your massive warhorse, your knees stiff, your stomach tied in hard knots. Through the fog, you hear the terrifying blare of the enemy's war horns. There are no poetic speeches here. Just the heavy breathing of the men right beside you, the nervous shifting of thousands of horses, and the chilling clatter of weapons drawn from sheaths. Your commander gives the signal. The march forward begins at an agonizingly slow walk, the muddy ground trembling beneath you. Through the narrow slit of your helmet, your vision is terrifyingly limited. Your own breathing echoes loudly, trapped inside the cold iron cage of your helm. When the ultimate order to charge is given, it is not a beautiful dance. It is a chaotic, blind thunder. The wet mud flies up, completely blinding your visor. You forcefully lower your lance, locking your tired arm against your side, bracing for an impact that will shatter bones. The violent crash of the two armies meeting is the loudest, most unnatural sound you have ever heard. It is a solid wall of deafening violence. Thick wood splinters, heavy steel rings against iron shields, and horses scream in agonizing ways that will haunt your nightmares. Your lance breaks upon impact. The terrible shock shoots up your arm, instantly numbing your shoulder. You frantically draw your broadsword, but the crush of desperate bodies is so claustrophobic you can barely swing it. This is the true reality of the melee. It is dark, cramped, and smells overwhelmingly of fresh blood, mud, and panic. You do not fight with graceful techniques. You fight like a trapped animal, stabbing blindly at whatever dark shape appears in front of your scratched visor. Every single breath is a struggle. The air trapped inside your helmet is boiling hot and sour with your own fear. A terribly heavy blow suddenly strikes your shield. You stagger backward, your boots slipping dangerously in the blood-soaked mud. You know with absolute certainty that if you fall here, you will never get back up. The heavy iron boots and massive hooves behind you will trample your body deep into the cold earth. You force yourself with every ounce of strength to stay upright. You swing your heavy sword again, feeling the sharp blade bite deeply into something soft. You do not check their colors or their face. There is no time for chivalry or honor. There is only the frantic urge to survive the next 10 seconds. Hours seem to pass in this muddy hell. You lose all sense of time. Your arms feel like lead weights. Your lungs burn with every breath. You fight blindly until you literally cannot feel your fingers gripping your weapon. And then, agonizingly slowly, the chaotic noise begins to shift. The enemy lines finally break. The terrifying screams turn to panicked retreat. You stand there in the mud, your chest heaving violently, leaning on your blood-stained sword just to keep from collapsing. The battle is over, but there is no cheering. You push your heavy visor up, gasping for cold, clean air. The once green ground is completely covered in broken bodies, tangled miserably together in the red mud. You slowly walk through the devastating carnage. The heavy silence is broken only by the pitiful groans of dying men and the cawing of black crows. Heartless looters are already moving among the dead, stripping expensive armor and stealing boots. You do not shout at them. You do not stop them. You are far too tired, too hollow to care anymore. The years blend together like the slow turning of a heavy, ancient wheel. You rise with the dawn, but the process is no longer swift. Your joints ache much deeper now, the cold dampness of the stone seeping into your bones long before the winter actually arrives. The steward greets you with a quiet nod, his own hair graying. The squire, now a full-grown man himself, walks beside you, patiently matching your slower, heavier pace. Nothing feels unusual at first, until you step outside into the crisp morning courtyard and realize that the world has quietly shifted around you. There are far fewer hooves on the road, fewer bright banners snapping in the wind. Your role, once so loud and essential, now feels incredibly distant, almost ceremonial. You still ride out occasionally. You still wear the heavy armor for formal parades and obligatory feast days. But even the young boys you train look past you now. They look toward the engineers sketching strange new machines, toward the captains drilling rows of men with long pikes and the loud, thunderous crack of gunpowder. The future no longer rides a heavy warhorse. The first time you see a musket fired in anger, it feels almost insulting. There is no noble dance, no clash of steel, no test of physical strength or endurance, just a loud bang, a thick cloud of sulphurous smoke, and a man falling into the dirt from 100 paces away. You watch it from a hill, say nothing, and later, you carefully clean your heavy sword anyway, purely out of stubborn habit and quiet defiance. The great knights gather less and less frequently now. The old names you memorized as a wide-eyed boy are rapidly fading from conversation, replaced by politicians, merchants, and artillery commanders. Your own armor gathers dust in the dark corner of the hall, ticking softly as the evening fire warms the cold iron. It is incredibly heavy now, not just in physical weight, but in memory. Each deep scratch recalls a nameless, muddy skirmish. Each dent holds the ghost of a day spent surviving the absolute worst of humanity. The age of the night is ending. Not with a grand, glorious roar, but with a series of quiet, tired sighs. And surprisingly, you do not resent it. You are simply too tired to fight the turning of the era. Time grinds all legacies down into something quiet and forgotten. You spend your long evenings by the hearth. The fire cracks and pops, casting long, dancing shadows against the tapestries. You watch the dying flames and remember the freezing mornings, the crooked smiles of lost friends, the smell of wet horse and the taste of cheap ale. That too was knighthood. And looking back, it was enough. You survived the mud, the blood, and the terrifying charges. You survived the terrible weight of the iron. One quiet, unassuming evening, you finally pass your heavy sword to your loyal squire. Not in a grand ceremony with chanting priests and watching kings. Just in the quiet stillness of your own hall. He takes it with both hands, his eyes wide, fully understanding the invisible, crushing weight he now carries. He does not say thank you. He doesn't need to. And so, you finally begin to fade. Not in shame, but in a natural, peaceful rhythm. The castle halls grow incredibly quiet around you. The fire burns lower, reducing to soft, glowing embers that pulse with a gentle, fading heat. Your life's duties are finally done. The heavy armor is taken off for the very last time. You sink deep into your heavy wooden chair. The warmth of the dying fire wrapping around you like a thick, comforting blanket. The terrible aches in your knees and shoulders begin to numb, melting away into the soft darkness. Your eyelids grow heavy, heavier than any iron helmet you ever wore. Your breathing slows down, matching the steady, peaceful rhythm of the sleeping castle. The wind outside howls against the thick stone walls, but you are safe. You are warm. You are entirely at peace. Let the bards sing their loud, inaccurate songs of dragons and shining armor. Let the historians argue endlessly over drawn borders and dead kings. Here in the dark there is only rest. The cold rain can no longer touch you. The mud, the blood, and the deafening noise of the battlefield are all completely washed away. It is time to let go. You have carried the weight of the world for long enough. Let the shadows deepen around you. Let the quiet take over completely. Take one last deep breath. Close your heavy eyes. Let the tension leave your tired muscles. Fade slowly into the dark, dreamless sleep of history. Good night.